Today we're going to be taking a look at this TL250H. This is a 250 millimeter, and this one is actually made of what it calls semi-carbon, which means it's part fiberglass. Anyway, this one also, like the Fiyong I reviewed earlier, has the top piece that's kind of carbon that goes over the top of it to help protect the insides of the quadcopter and try to give a little bit more protection to your electronics and battery. So here is the quadcopter. This is fully assembled, and this side has the plastic on it, but I want to leave the other side off so you can see what it looks like. The TL250 comes in a nice box like this. Now, this is because it's a Terret, and Terret's kind of a bigger name, and they're a little bit more proud of their quads, and so they give you a nice packaging with it. Well, like I said, this one has the little plastic piece on the one side, but not on the other side. Now, when I look at this, I think this looks really cool, and the only problem I had with it, and the reason I'm not doing the assembly, is because it was kind of a pain and it took me a while to figure it out. Well, this is the inside of what it looks like, the Terret. And the inside of this, except for this stuff here, it pretty much all comes together. This middle section all comes already assembled. So you basically, all you have to do is put these arms on. And it has the screws down here that hold the arm on, and the screws are already in place. So you have to remove the screws, put the arms on, screw them in. Same thing up here, it has a little spacer, you got to screw that in, and then screw the arm into the spacer as well. And the spacer's here just to give a little bit more rigidity to the arm, keep it from flexing so much when you're flying or crashing. But like I said, the middle section here was pretty much all assembled. It has the power distribution board built in here, and this is okay. The positive and negative are on either side, so the positive is over here. So when you mount your ESC wire is going to have to come to this side for the negative, and then cross over to the other side for the positive. And the opposite for here. It's going to go to here for the positive, and then cross over for the negative. That's not too big of a deal, I guess. Also up here in the front, this is where you'd solder in your ESC wires up here in these little small holes. When I think about having the power distribution board, I really like the idea. The only thing I don't like is that it's on the bottom of the quadcopter, and so you have the potential of landing on your wiring unless you put the landing gear on here, which they have like little pads to go on here. And if you have that, it'll help keep the landing from hitting the wire so much. But I don't know what I think about that idea so much. But anyway, it has these little pieces here, and what those are, it's just solder points for these power leads that come off, and you can use these to power your FPV gear, your flight board, or whatever you're doing. And it also has one more up here, and I would assume this is to power your video transmitter, because they want you to put your video transmitter up here in the top section up here, I believe. So when you go to assemble this, they're going to want you're supposed to put your flight board up here on top, and your ESCs are supposed to go in here, inside these areas here. That's if you get the small ones. If you get the larger ones, they might have to mount on top or down underneath or someplace else. But when this closes, well, actually here, I'll show you this first. It has a little hinge up here in the front, and basically it's just where these pieces screw into the little spacer there, and the spacer itself is screwed down to the board. And it also came with the 4 extra spacers here, and this one is different in that it has the little holes for the mounting plate for the camera to screw into it. So when you put this together, you got to make sure you use that one up here and not back on here, or you'll be pulling it out. The problem I had with this was trying to figure out where I was supposed to put these spacers. I ended up putting one here, and the other one is here, and the other spacer is right there. And so that it seems like it's not a big deal now, but when I was trying to put it together and I had no idea what I was doing, it was a little bit more difficult. It has the 2 carbon fiber plates up here on top. This one I would assume is for your video transmitter. You could run your antenna up through this little hole, and so it could stick up, and when it crashes, the impact goes to the carbon fiber instead of to the connection to your video transmitter. And this back here I would assume is for your receiver for your transmitter. And the only thing is you have to have long wires, because they're going to run down this whole length down here, or here up to your flight board on this level. So usually your wires are kind of short because it's all stacked together, but in this case it's not going to be that way. Now when you have your ESCs out here on the arms, they're going to have to talk to the flight board as well. So your ESC signal wires may have to run up this pole and out to here, I guess, which would seem kind of cheesy. Or you could try to, if it's long enough, you could try to run it up here and up the front back to your flight board, and that would be a little bit more ideal because then it'd be covered up when you shut the cover like this. Now this TL250, how it closes in the back is kind of interesting, I guess. It has these little hooks here, and the little hooks grab onto this. And so when you go to put it on, you push kind of hard, and there, one side, nope, neither side snapped in. Just a little harder there. Thing kind of snaps in there, and you can see the hooks kind of grab onto that top piece of the carbon fiber here on this plate, and that holds in there pretty well, so it's not going to come off or anything. It's just, you know, it's just held in there a little bit by, I don't know, by the corners there, and like I said, it's okay. Now when you go to put this side on, the one thing you have to realize is that it's kind of shaped kind of like this, where this middle section sticks out a little further than the top section. So this top section is actually screwed with these nylon screw and nut directly to the carbon fiber, and it pinches here. These two lower ones have a spacer in there, so there's a screw that goes into the spacer from the outside and a screw that goes into the spacer from the inside. And you can see here I have the spacers on here for the other side. The fairings on this are really thin, and this stuff is like just real thin plastic, and you could probably cut this with a pair of scissors if you wanted to. It's that thin. Now you got to be careful with this, because if you break this, the replacements are like $5, and the $5 gets you another front fairing like this, and then 2 more side pieces. Well, on here, let me get this thing snapped back on. I'll just try to snap it on without breaking it. There, it's snapped on. And here's the front camera mount. Like I said, this is for powering your stuff up on the upper plate. But anyway, so this front camera mount here, it can sit straight ahead. I'll try to make sure you can see this a little bit, but there it's kind of sitting straight with the quadcopter, so your camera's looking directly forward. Now if you're going to run a little faster, you can bend it back, but it can only bend so far, about like that kind of angle. That's probably about, what, a 40-degree angle or something, which is pretty steep. And you can tighten up the screws and hold it there. It's a little loose right now because I didn't tighten them up, but you could hold it there like that. You could also take this these screws out here and move it up here to this one, to these two, so the camera sits up a little bit further if you wanted to mount it that way. But I don't know, I think it'd be a little better back here. But if you're going to angle it too much, you might be better off moving it up here. That way it could angle more by getting this little by moving it out of the way of this plate so it can lean back. And that's where I was saying that if you have this fairing, it might get in the way of your camera angle pointing up. But with a pair of scissors, you can cut that up a little bigger, and it wouldn't be in the way anymore. Inside the frame, it comes with a little piece of rubber mat here. And let's see if I can pull it out of here. I didn't stick it down yet, but it looks like this, and it's just designed to be sticky on the back. And what you are supposed to do with this is you're supposed to lay it down inside the bottom plate of your quadcopter, and that's supposed to just help give the battery a little bit of grip so it doesn't slide out. And then you use the included battery strap here that says "tear it" on it, and that's supposed to hold down the battery into place so it doesn't, you know, has less of a chance of sliding out. Let's get some measurements off of these arms to see how thick they are. This first arm is 2.70 millimeters. We'll just measure a couple of them, call it good enough. This one's 2.4, well, let me squeeze a little better. 2.6 millimeters, 2.5, something like that, 2.55 millimeters. And the main plate down here on the bottom is 2.35 millimeters. And these side plates on here, these are about 1.15 millimeters. That's both of these sides. Now, this has quite a bit of strength to it, especially when it's fully assembled. Now, I don't think it's quite as strong as a Fiyong frame, but like I said, if you are going for looks on a quadcopter, this would be a pretty good one. Let's go ahead and see how these propellers will line up. This is a 5-inch propeller, and it does just fine. It still has several millimeters between the propeller and the edge there. Here's a 6-inch propeller, and it is not going to spin. It won't spin even if you get this stuff off. It looks like it's a little too big to squeeze past. So 5-inch props will be your only propeller you can use on these. Well, you can use 4s, but that'd be kind of slow. So here's the back of the quadcopter. Let's get some measurements on how wide this thing is so you can see what size of battery it could hold. 30.7 more or less. And for the height, it comes out about 37.6, 37, maybe 37. So Not a lot of opening in there, but it should be big enough for a 3S battery, maybe a smaller 4S battery. So here's the frame, and here's a Bonka 1345C 4S battery, and it will not fit into the back of this. So you won't be able to use a 1300 4S. But here's a 2S 1500 battery, and it slips in just fine in there. Then you could plug this into the power board here, and you would have, you know, plenty of space for the battery, and this thing is not going to get in the way and, you know, have your propellers chop up your wire. Now you would also, once you get it in there, you'll want to have your cable, your Velcro strap like this in there to help hold the battery down. So I have the battery strap inside here and the little rubber mat down the bottom. Let's go ahead and get some weights on this, and I'll go ahead and put some other weights of other quadcopters up on the screen so you can see them. But this one's coming in at 138.5. These arms only have the smaller 2mm size holes, so they should be able to run 1806 motors on here or something smaller, but you won't be able to run 2204 motors on this just because the holes are too small. So here's the TL250 compared to the ZX250 I've reviewed previously. Now the reason I'm reviewing both of these, or showing these together, is because these are the ones that have the roll cages. And like I said, the TL has this roll cage, and it kind of just snaps on up here. And the nice thing about it is it folds off so you can access the stuff inside. It has the wires already pre-soldered on here so you can run your power off of these if you need to. Like you could power your flight board or whatever you wanted to off of these. This one doesn't have any power distribution board built into it, but it does look a lot more heavy duty to me. But on the cool factor, this one definitely wins with the plastic covering. So for this build, you're going to need a 1.5mm hex key, a 2.0mm hex key, and a screwdriver to put in the nylon screws. Overall, I really like this quad. I think it looks cool. I think if you flew this at a event, you'd get a lot of attention just because it looks different than everybody else's with these big side panels and front panel on it. The only thing that I think might be disappointing is the camera mount. It might not tilt far enough, but I guess if it starts looking like you're seeing some of this in your picture, you can easily take a pair of scissors and cut this open a little bigger, so maybe that wouldn't be so bad. The only other thing I'll worry about with this is that this middle plate is kind of thin, but with these tall, stiff spacers here holding it up to the top one, it'll probably be okay. And also, I'm kind of disappointed that it only has these 2mm holes, so I guess you could always drill them out bigger if you wanted to. Anyway, this is the TL250. If you have any questions about it, leave them in the comments and I'll try to help you out as best I can. And if you are looking to purchase one of these for yourself or interested in looking at more and the prices, I'll have some of those in the comments and description. And as always, thanks for watching.